have enough people. Let us call this meeting to order before any internet problems affect our quorum. Do we need to call roll?
You're
Oh,
okay.
you've got everybody marked down, okay. Consideration of minutes from the March 24th meeting. This was, yeah, anybody have any issues with the minutes as presented? If not, I'd take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Public comment of items, we don't have any public here.
Will you vote on the minutes just
Oh,
for?
yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Public comment of items on the agenda, there is no public that has joined us this evening, so we can skip that. First order of new business is consider a recommendation to amend the HCDC bylaws. As we talked at the last meeting, we discussed the reasoning for this, and tonight was another prime example where we could not get the numbers down that we needed to get here. Luckily, Horatio was able to join by Zoom, but with there only currently being 6 of us, I believe, is that right? We're currently only have 6, or do we have 7 right now?
7, technically. There's
Okay.
2 vacancies.
Oh, right, Dowda is still on until, yeah, so it's rough. We had the discussion, this is the time to have any additional discussion. Susan, do you want to kind of address the memo you sent out just about ideas on how we would do that if we did 9 to 7s?
Yeah, and you don't have to make a recommendation as to the how, but I'm guessing council would like your input on that. And I also think you should try to stagger it somehow. The one, well, I'll just go through. Right now, obviously, you have 3, 3, and 3. And with the 2 vacancies right now would be for terms expiring in 2026. There is one sort of little, I don't want to call it a glitch, but a little postscript since my memo. I did not realize that council had appointed Commissioner, is it Kiche?
Yes,
To both to the end of 28/7, but then they also gave you another 3-year appointment. So you are automatically up for through 28. And so what that would mean is if you want to go just 2 expiring in 28, you would only have 1 appointment because Commissioner Kichi is already going to serve through 28. So if you wanted to start with 2 being in 28, then that would mean we would just have 1 appointment this summer. Whereas you could keep it for 3, and then council would just appoint 2, because again, Councilmember Kichi is already serving through 28. And then you would have 2 persons ending in 29, and then 2 in 30. So it all depends on how you really want to do that. If you have any questions, with the 2 vacancies, obviously, it's much simpler. And given the fact that then you have to decide about Commissioner Borgen too, which will come up in your next item too. But so do people have any questions about that? It's just really.
Would it make sense, Susan, to then move, on your first page for your recommendation, I really like the 2, 2, 3. Would it make sense to put Amos in one of those first sections as the one that would end on the 28th, since he's already there, leaving 1 that would need to be appointed? I'm good through 2026, and unless they get rid of me. I would probably serve again. So then we'd have another one there, and then the 3 that end on 27 currently are Kavarkas, Kratz, and Ball. Where is Mary Ann on that list?
I'm done in
Oh, you're
June.
done 2025. So, okay.
Yep.
But that would also mean that if Dowda, if we do remove Dowda, that only leaves 1 empty one. So there'd be 1 empty one basically in all three spaces that would need to be filled. Does that seem workable?
So which year would you want to have three persons?
I still think 3 and 27 makes sense. But just, because,
But, so that means council would have to appoint somebody to end in 27 then, right? If you want three
Right.
ending in
Yep.
27.
yeah.
Is this assuming that the three people, well, it's assuming that the counselors would then appoint three people at the end of June of this year?
Right.
Right.
So one would be for ending in 2028,
1 and 26, and
one
then,
in 27, yeah.
and then if Dowda is gone, then we
Right.
would have one for 26. Yeah, I like that idea.
So then if somebody would apply in that scenario, could the applicant say, I want to apply for a 2-year term, I want to apply for a 1-year term?
That's probably how I would have to do it, and maybe council with the one-year term would be an automatic, given what, if the council could do that, saying, hey, if you're only going to be on for one, we're automatically going to give you another term if you want it.
Another 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, the
I
really,
wouldn't even tell them. I would just go ahead and
Yeah.
mark them,
Yeah.
just put them on auto renew, just like everybody does for our subscriptions. Like you have to call an outside company to, send in a notarized form to get off. Thoughts or any more conversations, or
Is
Amos,
the-
any thoughts on that?
Explain.
2-3-2 stagger makes sense to me, especially in the term that Commissioner Kache is ending in 28, I believe. Appointing one other council person and then going into 3 and 29 and then back to 2 and then back to 2, 3, 2 again. That makes sense to me. But I also I guess I'm unsure kind of like how long it would take to transition the committee to 7 people with that method.
well, it's really up to council. You first have to have 2 council members who are on the Rules Committee look at this, but council knows what's going on here, and that's why they haven't made appointments, because they've agreed with you. And so ideally, you would have a Rules Committee meeting quite quickly, and then perhaps on the May 21st, maybe, is that it? Is that the second meeting? The second meeting in May, and have council decide whether they agree to go to a 7-person commission.
And it shouldn't be tough since we have 2, we currently have a 7-person. So in theory, well, depending on if we do it before the 25 periods are ended, but we would just have to have somebody appointed, just one person that'd be appointed if Dowda is removed. But yeah, so,
But there's applications at council on hold.
Yes,
Okay, so even if the 3 of us don't apply, there's applications on hold at council that they could appoint somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
makes sense.
So,
Yeah, so we just need to make a vote, and we just need to have a vote to make the recommendation to council, to ask council to change from 9 to 7, is that correct? That's what we're doing today?
You'd be voting on the amendment to the bylaws to do that.
Yeah, okay.
do we need to vote on this? What we just discussed?
On the method, I'm not sure, Sue.
yeah, if you want to, I would just take a separate vote, since it's not a bylaw.
Okay,
I think council would put it, I don't know if we put it in the resolution or put it in the bylaws. But I would make it 2 separate, because you definitely want to go to 7, I think, right? For
well, let's,
sure. I mean,
let's
I don't
vote
know
on the
that.
amendment
Yeah,
first.
right, yes.
And do I
Okay.
have a motion, to approve the recommendation to council on the bylaw change from a 9-member council to a 7?
Motion to vote?
Can I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, it is moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of making the bylaw change from a 9 to 7-member committee and making that recommendation to council, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. So in regards to that motion that has been approved, that recommendation to council, the bylaw amendment, can I get a motion to approve the 223 option or the recommendation from the city, first assistant city attorney, to make that recommendation for the 223 staggered change for appointments starting in 2025.
I motion to vote on the recommendation.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. All in favor, no opposed. Perfect. So the next agenda item is the recommendation to City Council to discharge a commissioner. As we've discussed the last couple meetings, Dowda Balde,
Baldy, I think.
Baldy, was appointed last October. He did come to one meeting, but since then, we've been unable to communicate with him. City staff has reached out to him via mail and phone. He no longer has a working phone number that the city has access to. So we are making, I am asking that we make the recommendation to City Council to discharge Dowda from his position here, so that we do have a slot open for a new interested party to serve on the committee. Discussions. I mean, does anybody have any concerns about this at this point after 6 months?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was looking at the 10-month period report that we had in the last meeting, and I could see he's only attended one out of the 4 meetings we've had. And 2 of the absences are marked OE, which means they are excused. When I look at the bylaws of our commission, I want to make sure I read it. Section E says, 3 consecutive unexplained absences of a member from regular meetings will result in a recommendation to the City Council from the Commission to discharge said member and appoint a new member. So at the moment we are doing this, the commissioner who is not here knows that there's something called excused or absent thing, something of that nature, which he has not violated. 3 consecutive.
I think the difference in the bylaws, it says unexplained, and we haven't had any communication with this commissioner. So we've tried phone calls, we've tried emails. We sent him a letter in January about just the general importance of attendance to these meetings. And then also prior to this meeting, before the agenda went out, we sent a letter to him and an email letting him know that this would be on the agenda. And he also received a copy of the packet.
And one more piece of clarification is, if you look at the dates, Amos, is those are actually only the dates of meetings we were actually able to have. So there were meetings we didn't end up having because he was absent without explanation. So there's a January meeting, a February meeting that aren't showing up here. So between September, October.
So there are 2 meetings
and
in
then-
between there.
And then March, there were 3 other meetings that we were not able to actually have that don't have attendance records. So yeah, it's been more than 3.
It's more than
Yeah.
3.
It's been more than
So-
3 unexplained absences.
And unexplained is the big part. Like, there's people that maybe have missed meetings and have reached out and said, I can't come. And I think we treat that differently as just hearing nothing at all.
Yeah, I think it's important that there's all that information is put in record for anybody in public to see. Because me, once I've only been here for a month, and
Sure.
I see that there's no violation.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and we can have a problem. We can appeal or whatever. But if there's evidence, like you say, that he has more than 3 unexplained, and they're consecutive, then I don't have an issue with that because it's a bylaw.
Yeah.
I agree.
I
What will
would
happen
also-
is he will get a letter from, if you vote this to remove him, it'll go on the city council agenda, and he will get a letter, and he will have the opportunity to come to city council and explain. that if he wants to resist it. So he'll still have another opportunity.
Okay.
But in that resolution, we'll make sure it's clarified of what meetings they were that he did not appear at, and without explanation.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I, in relation to that, can I add for policy issues that we change our record keeping in terms of absences and all those things, whether the meeting is cancelled or not, we need to know. If we can track over time, what is causing that? Because sometimes we might think that it is we, the individuals, but actually it could be the long duration of a vacancy. As you can see, there's a vacancy here that is almost like, I don't know how many months, maybe 10 months. Another one, 2 of them, yes, yeah. So that could be,
That's because they didn't get appointed they weren't on the committee. This is before Dowda didn't join until August.
yeah.
You, obviously.
Yeah.
You didn't miss
I
11
didn't miss.
meetings last year,
yeah.
because you weren't here. And same, George just got on in August as well. So it looks like George skipped out on us for 6 months. No, he actually wasn't a member yet. So
Okay.
that's why that
Yeah.
spreadsheet looks that way.
We could have a situation where we have those long duration vacancies, like 3 of them. Here we have 2 long ones and maybe one other short one. If those things, there are 3 of them with the long duration and failed vacancies, it puts the commission in a very bad situation. Yeah. And so I don't know what we can do about that, why they were that long. Is it the issue of not being failed or what? Because that could have led to some of the meetings that are not showing up in the chat here, yeah, being cancelled. So I would recommend that we have a policy on this absence things, and it's clearly put so that we know.
The other
When-
thing is, we were just recently able to hold the meeting with a quorum by Zoom. Prior, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
People had to be in person
Physically
to have a
present.
quorum. So that could help, because like Horatio tonight, who's on Zoom with us, if he wasn't on Zoom, we wouldn't have a quorum again. So I think that's an important thing that would give people the opportunity, even if they can't get here for some reason, they could at least come in over Zoom.
I think our vote to recommend a reduction in the size of the commission as well is going to help it too. Maybe we'll see less of those long-term vacancies with 7 compared to 9. But I love the idea of maybe a more I forget the word, but just more separation between the excused and unexcused absences. Maybe something that helps us discern, this was an excused absence versus this was not an excused absence. And maybe I didn't look at the records closely enough to see that, but
We just recently switched in 2025 to just doing present and absent. It used to say excused and unexcused, but there really was no guidance on what that means. So other commissions are doing the present and absent, so we've switched to that. I do kind of see what you're saying about when maybe there's a meeting canceled for lack of quorum, if that could be reflected in the attendance sheet. I've seen other commissions do that. That might be helpful.
Maybe even at the
That would be
top,
helpful.
have a column.
Yeah.
That at the top maybe says 125 canceled for quorum, but then still shows who was present.
Yeah.
So that we can show that there are, once again, a solid 5 that are making the effort to get here, and this is why this kind of thing is important. Yeah, I do like the idea of being able
One-
to see that at a glance.
And I don't know if this makes any difference at all, but I did look at all the other commissions, and this is one of the largest. There's a lot of other commissions in the city that do not have 9 members. So,
I remember discussing that at the last meeting. You're right, we're already one of the largest commissions.
Right, yeah. and I just go back to what I said last time about, we missed a couple of 2 meetings that were really important to the community.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So. Anyway,
Horacio, do you have anything else to add? Anything else you would like to add?
No, I'm okay, and I think what we discussed with us making less members or commissioners to participate, I think is the best the best thing that we can give to the commission.
Okay. Well, there being no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to consider that, or to make a motion to make that recommendation to city council to discharge Commissioner Dauda Baldi. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of making the recommendation to city council to discharge Commissioner Baldi, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All righty, then that is that. Staff and commission updates. Do we want to do staff updates first?
Sure.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. This week is National Community Development Week. There's 2 flyers in the packet that highlight the impact of our federal Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program funds. They highlight some of the local projects that you guys have seen come through recommendations with HCDC. Also, the National Community Development Association released a CDBG impact report today that was sent to all congressional offices to highlight the importance of the program and to call for a funding increase. DVIP's new shelter was featured in that, so I'm gonna send that to you tomorrow in a follow-up email. It was kind of exciting to see Iowa City mentioned in a national report like that, so I'll be sure to share that. April is also Fair Housing Month. There's a press release in the packet that has some educational opportunities and just general information about housing discrimination. Anything from you?
These are really nice.
I don't know if anyone else is
They are really nice.
participating, but tomorrow we're doing
The bus.
Affordable Housing Coalition is hosting a bus tour for people who are signed up. I'm participating in that, and we're showcasing a couple projects. One is at the Peninsula at 1310 Foster. It's rental housing partnership with the Housing Fellowship that the Housing Authority owns and manages. And then we're driving by our North Summit property, which we intend to develop potentially with pro-housing funds.
And that is not something I've gotten to do yet. I've tried to get with Jessica to do it this year, and I have my schedule, but Caleb did it last year. Caleb, who was on, and said it was really incredible, that it was just very informative, and, yeah, it's a cool program they do to do
Yeah,
the
if
little,
you get a
little
chance,
bus
go.
tour.
And can anybody in the public sign up?
Probably not at this point, but if you guys are interested, we can let the Affordable Housing Coalition know. I'm not sure who is all on board with this round of it. They do it once a year typically.
Okay.
Any other staff updates? Any commissioner updates?
Nope.
Was there something you wanted to talk about agenda item-wise? For future agenda, or no? Okay. Anybody else?
No, I think.
sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's something that should come at a different time, not now.
Discuss other stuff, and so I didn't know if that was something we need to. I don't know if now's the time. I would love, I know we've talked about it a handful of times, and maybe if we can get meetings that actually happen steady, I would love to see something that Stan and I have talked about and is an ongoing issue in town, is the issue with low barrier temporary housing. Obviously, like the homeless camps around town. There's nothing in code that really addresses it. I know it puts our housing inspectors in a tight spot when, when they're trying to tread the line of, everybody's needing to follow the rules, but at the same time, trying to be considerate and understanding of people are in situations that need, and I think it's called low barrier, like if they're in tents or if they're camping on city property. I just know there's nothing in our code that kind of addresses that situation directly. I don't know if that's something that staff has had a discussion in-house with, or if, I know Stan and his inspectors are, have gone out on a regular occasion to, when problems have arisen, whether it was, we had a fire under the bridge, or, the trash starts getting piled up, or mattresses versus tents along the shelter house line, that kind of stuff. It would be nice to have some kind of movement from the city, that the city's taking some kind of proactive stance or action to either, to somehow solidify or codify, what we're doing to help those people in need. I don't know what the next step would be, but I feel like it's something that should come from a committee like ours making a recommendation to council on housing, even for those that are unhoused.
I think we could have someone who knows more about that come and speak to you guys and
Okay.
maybe go from there. So
Okay.
add that as a future agenda item if you guys are
Okay.
interested.
Yeah, yeah, it would be, like I said, it's tough. I mean, they're just kind of getting moved around from place to place. I don't know what that permanent solution is. And Mary Ann might be able to talk about this somewhat because you've been in that, which is there are people who just will not enter the shelter system. And, they won't, they won't go through what the amount of, of housing and services that are out there. I mean, they just won't. And there's got to be, I don't know, there's got to be some solution for those people as well. I just don't know what that is, aside from being behind Staples and getting moved to being at the airport, to being moved, by Kennedy Law Firm, to being moved. Now they're out in there's a big group of them over in the park, not the one on the Terry Trueblood side, but the other side of the river that the city has that parkland. And, anyway, it'd be nice to have, I don't know, some kind of
It's-
discussion.
It's happening all over this country. I would really caution, I would not recommend the city to adopt some of the other things that have been adopted in other communities, such as fines and/or incarceration, because that's kind of going back to where, where are you going to have,
Oh, yeah, no, and I'm going,
prison,
and I'm
you
going
know.
the other way, which is it would be nice to have protections in place in the housing code that would protect like that low barrier housing to be established at some point. I mean, because right now there is just no rules about,
Well, it might help to have whoever the staff person is now at the shelter to come in and really talk about what they're doing to go out and try and connect with folks. It can take a long time, especially when somebody has significant mental illness, to get them to even respond and not, want to flee from you. So, just talk about what the efforts are before we go in and say, leave it up to the council, because, like I said, almost every community that you hear about is dealing with this.
I totally agree. I think it's almost impossible to find a general solution for an individual problem. And you want to understand and connect to these people to help them if they are willing to receive help, like you said, Kyle. But yeah, I think the furthest thing that we're all away from is the idea of incarcerating people or fining them for
Right.
establishing these types of things. I think a lot of good ideas here. We should bring on people from the shelter house, people that are professionals maybe in the data around Iowa City homelessness, and give us a little more understanding of the scale of the problem, because it's a very complex situation.
Yeah, we can definitely set that up for you.
Yeah, I think on the situation of homelessness, I was a little bit, when I was in another commission, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I think I talked to one of the directors there. We're looking for some data on homelessness and how long they stay there. A lot of a whole page of inquiry of information, but for some reason we didn't get anything. They, for some reason also, they did not show up even to give us a presentation on the situation. And I think this is an area, I think you did a survey during the planning this year, and I haven't looked at that report yet, so I might be probably just behind, but we will need to look at that report and really dig deep on the situation of collecting data. I know it's very, very difficult. I don't know how you did it. I'd love to look at that. But we need a lot of information to help the city council. Yeah, a lot of information on who these people are. Is it something that is just they do every year, or it just happened? Are there people who come and go? I was reading a small book of a gentleman who is homeless, and he comes and stays for 2 years. He goes to California, New York, and he comes back. And somebody, I don't know if you guys have read that book. And so there's something also about the homeless people that they like about Iowa City too. So they try to go away, then come back. Yeah. So such persons, if they could be through counseling and outreach, maybe somebody could talk to them a little bit further on the best way to help them, because they want to live here. There's just a problem, disconnect somewhere missing here.
So Erica Bree, if you guys can absolutely see if we can put something together from Shelter House or from anybody, could be a citywide staff that has some ideas of, out of the box thinking. I mean, when we talk about, I don't know. I mean, for the ones that are for those that are the unhoused that are, living, not camping near Shelter House or camping out. I mean, like, what kind of access do they have to facilities? I mean, even is there a possibility of the city offering, I don't know, porta potties or, potable water in some way, like, without establishing, communities per se, but it would be nice to have some discussions of other options to help support that community without it becoming, like you said, without it becoming antagonistic
Right.
or, combative, so, punitive, so. Anything else? Oh, what's coming up? Do we have anything, home CDBG funding stuff coming up May? What's the next meeting look like?
Normally, we would have our annual action plan on the agenda, so we would have already completed our CDBG and home funding cycle, but things are a little out of whack this year. So that may be June before we can get you that annual action plan. And we're doing things a little bit differently this year, where I think we're gonna approve the action plan first with the general funding, and then we'll have you guys do your funding allocation, so. And that's delays with the federal budget, so.
Yeah.
Horacio, anything from you?
Oh, he's gone.
Did he disconnect?
Sorry,
Oh,
Kyle. No, Kyle, I don't have anything new.
Okay. Well, in that case, I would love a motion to adjourn. Oh, yeah, Amos, go ahead.
Maybe this is far-fetched, but I was looking at the reports we got from the grants person, and usually the people who receive grants, the CDBG grants, always send us a report on whom they are serving and things like that. And so the counts are really good, very beautiful. I see this number of students, persons. There's another statistic I was interested in regarding the persons they serve, because some of them are supposed to be served and then they move on to show progress. Because we could be serving the same persons every year, every cycle. So that if we're just interested in the counts, and it is the counts that make us allocate things and get to justify things, that is easy. But we also want to see the issue of efficiency. How well are people graduating from some of the programs? Because we have a list of programs that are engaged in to say, okay, this number of students graduated and they're not there anymore. We have new persons. We also want to see waiting lists, those who want services but can't get them because their full capacity is not there, not enough persons, or other things. They should also tell us, okay, these are the number of applications or people wanted to be served on services about mental health or maybe how to deal with children. There are a lot of services that are offered by this or that, so that we can see very well how they are doing. Because just the counts itself is good, but I want to see.
And a lot of that information will come through with the applications that we receive.
Okay.
And, it also, I think, if I'm understanding what you're asking, it also really depends on what the recipient of the funds is doing. So for instance, if they're getting home funds to do housing rehab, then the only way that you could see more numbers is if more home owners apply, and that, or if there's not enough money and there's so many applications. But that kind of stuff is what we receive in the applications.
Okay. Maybe because I haven't seen an application how it looks
Because
like.
otherwise, it's like the
Yeah, I know
whole
the
book that we got before.
Yeah, the services are very different which they offer, but there are human services, direct human services that some of the organizations are engaged with. And those ones, I think that type of data is essential, because
Oh, don't you worry, we will fill you so full of data when the application time comes.
Okay.
If you're touching on aid to agencies as well, the agencies, they also submit narrative data, but with 22 or 23, however many agencies we're serving, we try not to overwhelm you with pages and pages of narrative, but if you're interested in reading some of the more narrative information, we can provide that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good to, the more information, the better it is, yeah. We might not have the technology yet to synthesize that to help us, but we'll find a way and also improve on the technology. How well, I don't know if there's a software we have anywhere that's helping us summarize, narrow down some of these things. I'm not sure, but it's something that we might need.
The software's right up here.
Okay.
I'm just
All right, anybody else or anything else, Amos?
I'm done.
All righty. George, anything?
I'm all right.
All righty. In that case, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor of heading home?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thanks, Horacio.